Hey guys, welcome back. Today on The Untidy Artist, we'll be making flower fairy dolls. I'm really excited about this tutorial, and this will show you how to just make a basic flower fairy doll. And then to this, in upcoming videos, you'll see new variations of different types of fairy dolls that you can make. In fact, I have one coming up for Halloween, so stay tuned for that, for a cute little witch. Please subscribe so you'll be the first to see any new variations of flower fairy dolls that I come out with, as well as my other tutorials. Let's grab some supplies and get started. The first thing you'll need is some stem floral wire. This just measures 18 inches long. It's floral wire that has been covered in cloth, and it works perfectly for this tutorial. I bought a big pack of these in the floral section at the craft store. The next thing you'll need is some wooden beads that measure 3/4 of an inch and have a 1/8 inch opening at the top. These work perfectly for your fairy doll. You'll also need some silk flowers. You'll be using the petals of this to create the skirt for your doll. My trusty glue gun set on low. These are just some little pliers that help when you're assembling your doll, some sharp scissors, and then some thread. You'll need a color for the skin, a color for the hair, and a color for the clothes. And then you'll need a measuring tape or a ruler. Okay, the first step is to grab one of your floral wire stems, and you can see this measures 18 inches, and then fold it directly in half. Then grab the color of thread that you've chosen for the hair, and very carefully take off the packaging and leaving it completely intact. Just open it up. You'll see it's wrapped in one big loop. And leaving that loop completely unraveled, you want to keep it intact. Slide one end of the wire through the loop of thread, slide it up to the top, and now you're going to take your wooden bead and slide the bead onto both pieces of your wire and all the way up to the top where your thread is. And you have your head and your hair, and now the next step is to start assembling the body. So slide the bead all the way up to the top where the thread is for the hair, and you'll need to hold that in place. It does like to slide around, and twist it maybe 2 or 3 times. This will create the neck. The next step is to create our arms. So take one of your wires and fold it up so it's laying horizontal, and you'll measure out 1.5 inches, and then fold the wire back towards the middle of the doll, keeping it horizontal. Wrap it around one more time so the end of your wire is facing where you just created your arm, and then fold the wire down. And you just made your first arm. Then you're going to repeat those steps on the second side. So fold the wire up so it's horizontal, measure 1.5 inches, and fold the wire back towards the middle to create the arm. And then wrap the wire around the back of the doll and fold it back down so that both of your end wires are vertical. Now we're going to create a torso. So grabbing the 2 long ends, twist them together about 4 or 5 times. Torso should measure approximately 3/4 of an inch. You've just created your doll body. Now the last thing I like to do is match up my legs, and sometimes one leg will be longer than the other, so just grab some wire cutters and trim off the end so that your legs are even. The next step is to wrap your doll with the embroidery thread you've chosen for the body color. So take your glue gun, put a small dab of glue right on the torso of the doll, and then holding the thread with one finger, the end of the thread, and I just leave it attached to the entire skein of thread. Evenly wrap the thread around the doll up towards the neck. So once you get to right underneath the arms, you're going to start wrapping the thread around one of the arms. Be sure to wrap as evenly as possible in a single layer. When you get to the end of the arm, take a small dab of glue, place it on the very end of your arm, and then carefully continue to wrap several times around where the hot glue is. This will tack the thread into place at the end of the arm, and then you're going to wrap back over where you just wrapped towards the center of the doll. So you've just put 2 layers of wrapped thread on the arm. When you arrive back at the center of the doll, wrap once or twice around the torso, and then continue the same steps to cover the other arm. So wrapping all the way to the end, putting a dab of glue to tack it into place, wrapping over the glue, and back towards the center of the doll. When you reach the center of the doll, take the end of your thread and wrap up the neck towards the base of the head. Once again, wrapping evenly as you go in a single layer, and then wrap back down towards the top of the shoulders. Now wrap about 3 times from the top of the right shoulder to underneath the left arm at a diagonal. You'll do the same from the top of the left shoulder to underneath the right arm. So you're creating an X with your thread. Wrapping the thread across the shoulders in this way creates the shape of the torso for our doll. Once you have finished wrapping around both shoulders, continue to wrap down towards the legs. When you get to the base of one of the legs, I find it's easier if I fold the leg up at an angle so the leg is horizontal. You'll follow the same steps for wrapping the thread with the legs as you did with the arms. So wrap all the way to the end of your leg. When you get to the end, place a small dab of glue. Wrap several times around the hot glue, securing it into place. And then evenly wrap your thread back to the top of the leg and follow these steps for the other leg. When you reach the top of the other leg, wrap your thread several times around the torso. And before we trim our thread, a quick review. So you start wrapping up the torso across each of the arms, around the torso and the shoulders, and then down the torso, down one leg, the other leg, and you end back up at the torso where you wrap around several times, and then just like we started our fairy doll, take a dab of glue, wrap the thread around the hot glue several times, tacking it into place, and trim off the end of your thread. Now we're going to dress our fairy doll. So grab your thread that you've chosen for the clothes. In this case, I'm using this pretty turquoise color. And I'm just going to wrap the torso area and part of the legs, creating a little bodysuit for my fairy doll. So take a small dab of glue in the center of the torso, and just like we started wrapping the body of our doll, we're going to do the same to wrap the color of the thread for the clothes onto the doll. So around the hot glue several times, tacking it into place, trimming off any excess little threads as you go. So you can see I'm just wrapping around the torso up to underneath the arms. And now I'm going to take my thread in an X, just like we did to create our shoulders. So 3 or 4 times around one shoulder, and then around the torso once or twice, and then I'm going to take it back up and around the other shoulder. This will create the top of the doll's dress. The bottom part of the doll's dress will obviously be out of flower petals, but you can have a lot of fun mixing this up with different colors. You can do longer sleeves, you can do short sleeves. This, like I said, is just a basic tutorial for a basic fairy doll. So once you've mastered this, you can go on and add more things to it. So just like we did for the body, once you get down to the bottom of the torso, you'll wrap down just a little ways on both of the legs to create some shorts for the doll. Wrap the thread around the torso several more times. Finish it off with a small dab of glue, wrapping the thread through the hot glue several times and trimming off the end. Now we're going to create the petal skirt. So grab the silk flower that you've chosen for the skirt and take it apart. And then I like to arrange my flower petals so that the longest petals will be on the bottom layers of the skirt, and the smaller petals of the flower will be the top layers of the skirt. So once you have them arranged, and you can kind of fold it in half and hold it up to your doll to get an idea of how it will lay, fold your petals directly in half, and I like to do this in sections of about 2, 3, maybe 4 petals, however many petals my scissors will cut through, and fold it in half, and we're just going to make the opening in the middle of the flower bigger so that the doll's legs can go through the center. So folding it directly in half and lining all of the holes up perfectly, we're going to cut a small slit, maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, down into the middle. We're going to create an X in the center of the flower. Like I said, this just opens up the middle more so the doll's legs will slide through the center of the flower and so that it will fit around her waist. Follow these steps for all of the layers of the petals, and once you have them all prepared, go ahead and line them up the way that you'd like them. And then starting with the top layers of your skirt, so the smallest petals, begin to slide those through the legs of your doll up to the torso of the doll. Continue to add the petals for your skirt, and then fiddle around with them. Just arrange the petals so that you like the way that they lay. And it's so fun to see your dolls starting to form. And then grab your glue gun, and you're going to gently separate the layers and just add little dabs of glue between the layers, working with very small amounts of glue. And just securing those layers together so that the skirt doesn't move around. And you'll want to pinch from the bottom underneath part of the petals to the top, securing that glue into place, and then just go back and tack any other places that feel like they might be a little bit loose. And once you've arranged your petals and you're happy with how the skirt lays, it's time to do the hair. I always wait to do the hair until the very end because, just like my own life, my fairy dolls tend to have bad hair days a lot, and I get probably the most stressed out in making these with the hair. So I found the easiest way is to place a small dab of glue at the top, slide the bead up to the top of the hair, and then lay your fairy doll down so that the hair is laying out flat. And you're going to take the end of the hair and loop it up and around to glue it to the back of the head. So I place some glue just below the top of the hair, and then I loop the hair up and around, tacking the ends into place. This gives the back of the hair some more volume. And then if you just gently pull the layers down and kind of fiddle around with it a little bit, you want to add as little glue as possible to this step because you have to be careful with the thread and the glue. The glue tends to make the hair lay flat, and it can show up really easily if you're not careful. So just kind of play around with it a little bit. I push the hair to different sides. I find that one really easy way to style the hair is to take a small section in the front and gently twist it back, as you can see I'm doing here. And then I add some thread, the same color that I did the clothes for the doll, and wrap that around several times, just pulling her hair back a little. It seems to frame the face really nicely. I'll be going into a lot more detail in different ways that you can style the fairy's hair in upcoming video tutorials, and I promise the more that you practice making these, the faster and easier they become. Trim off any loose ends of thread, and that's it, guys. You have this very darling little flower fairy doll. So fun to make, so many different options and so many different styles that you can do with this. Please watch for my upcoming video where I make a cute little fairy doll witch. Please give this tutorial a thumbs up if you liked it. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Thanks, guys. See you next time.